What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of FLAmerica, episode 7. Yesterday, we had Flamengo beat Internacional 3-2 at home at the Maracana at the Brasileirao, round 36. I'm joined today by my co-host, Leo, and we're here to bring Flamengo to the masses, have everybody who's in America be able to keep up with our beloved Rubro Negro, and everybody in Brazil be able to polish up on their English. Welcome back. How you doing, Leo?
Good morning, Rafa. Hello, everybody. I'm doing great. Wonderful game yesterday. I'm sure we're going to go and talk about it. Looking forward to this episode and the week ahead.
Awesome. Well, let's dive right into it, right? Yesterday, we have Flamengo playing at home against the Internacional that was actually above us in the league, right? They were in third prior to the match beginning, and Flamengo was in fourth. They were coming on to a 17-game unbeaten streak, and Flamengo with a game where was quote-unquote insignificant, probably the only team in the league that can fill up the Maracana to 56,000
Absolutely.
people, despite being an insignificant game. We can start off by talking about the spectacular first half we had, then get into a little bit of the underwhelming second half and some of the aspects of the game. Flamengo really needs to be a little bit more lethal, especially up top, if we want to keep up the same level of intensity throughout the game. So let's get into that. First half was incredible. What was your take on the game, Leo?
That's right, Rafa. You set it up very well by saying just how good Internacional have been playing up to yesterday. Not only, as you properly said, they were above us on the table. They were 17 games unbeaten. That's very hard to do. And also, they were the best performing team in the second round of the league competition. And let's not forget, they had still mathematical chances to win the title. So we were playing a team that had a lot to play for and who was in their best form. And what happens? First of all, kudos to the Flamengo fans. You properly said it. A game that is not of great relevance for Flamengo, and we pack Maracana to the brim almost, 57,000. And what happens? Flamengo just goes out and absolutely dominates the first half of the game, scoring 3 goals in 45 minutes. Could have been more, and buries any chance Internacional has to fight for the league title in what, in my opinion, was the best first half, the best 45-minute performance all year. We had good ones up to this point, like the first half against Palmeiras in one of the matches was pretty good. One of the first halves against Fluminense was pretty good. This was the best. We gave the context, a very top-tier club we were facing, and we absolutely thrashed them. Little can be said about the way we came back. Perhaps, missed a few chances in the second half and allowed 2 goals in. But still, I think it was a very good performance. There are aspects about it that we can talk about. But I think, again, and I think that's the main aspect of what we've been seeing since Felipe Luis took over. Other than the Copa do Brasil title, what we see is a team that is hungry, a team that always wants to go for the jugular and wants to win games. So excellent, very much to look forward to next year, and an overall great performance.
I agree. And I think what's important to note is that Flamengo's coming out the gates of every single game swinging. Doesn't matter what the importance is. We're meeting them with any team that we see with pressure, intensity, and trying to kill the game early, which is great. That's the Flamengo identity, right? That's the play style the fans want to see. Now, like I mentioned a little bit ago, in order not to have the intensity drop off like it did severely in the second half, right? We almost suffered a comeback. Right, they scored 2 goals in rapid succession. We had to play 3-2 with the momentum against us for a large part of the game. I believe there's a couple of things that may need to happen, right? Whether it's get a couple more, signings that are fit and ready to play, to have a little bit of a deeper squad. I know when we bring in a lot of our subs, a lot more, young players, which is great. but sometimes for tough games, experience can matter quite a bit. But yeah, what's your read in potentially what Flamengo can do or needs to do to be able to keep up that intensity for the entire game? Because it feels like for the last couple of games, it's been great, and then at some point there's a heavy drop off.
Well, I think the team is not at 100% of peak performance yet. Let's not forget these matches against Fortaleza, against Inter, and the remaining matches of the Brasileirao. These are preseasons of the preseasons match, as we've spoken before. So, to expect that the team will deliver at peak performance throughout 90 minutes in matches like that is a little unrealistic. So I think as the squad gets refilled, and there will be signings, I don't expect an enormous amount of signings next year, but there will be some. There's certainly going to be a replacement for Gabigol. And as the injured players come back, we're going to have a larger bench. We're going to have a deeper squad that will make sure that two things happen. Number one, you can keep the high level and the high player caliber on the pitch at all times. And also, as important, the more top-notch players you have on your squad, if you have the right chemistry, if you have the right club vibe, as it seems to be forming, all these players are going to try to fight one another for more playing time. So the combination of those two factors should add for persistent performance at a high level throughout the entire match.
Love it. And one thing that you were talking about yesterday that Flamengo's been doing incredibly, and it's a testament as to Felipe Luis's work and us gearing towards becoming more of an European level of a club and leaving the others in the dust. A lot of the set pieces, right, have been pretty phenomenal. Did you notice a lot of that?
I did. We've mentioned that, I think, in one of the past episodes, and this is something we've been talking about. And typically, this is always a good sign when you see a coach and that has their players bought in. Whenever you see good execution and diversity in set pieces, that means the players are listening and that the preparation for the match is focused. Again, we can always refer to Felipe Luis press conferences after the match. I always recommend people watch it, and you can see always a window into how the coaches thinks. He specifically acknowledged the performance of one of his staff members who is dedicated to focus on set pieces, almost like an NFL special teams coach, if you will. Flamengo now has that, and it's paying dividends. The first goal, clearly a set piece prepared play with Leo Ortiz going in the short in the first post and tapping it in. Fun fact here, guys, if you notice, Leo Ortiz, after he scores that goal, he runs to the Flamengo bench and he hugs somebody that people didn't really know who that person was. Turns out that guy that Leo Ortiz hugged was the set pieces coach.
That's awesome. That is so awesome.
Second goal also, started out from a set piece. Where they tried to play, he came back, then he went back in. But there was also a play where he went back and looked for space and made the play. So anyway, set pieces, as mentioned by Felipe Luis, Rafa, in the press conference, he said, whenever the game is a little locked and a little stuck, set pieces are a great way to break games open. And that is true. So I think, again, early days, but a lot to look forward to. Gotta love the way we're heading.
100%. And talking about where we're heading, we talk about a signing, which is one of, if not the biggest signing in Flamengo's history, right? Carlos Alcaraz. Biggest. Right behind him is Nico de la Cruz, right? Been severely underperforming. It's a little bit upsetting now. Felipe Luis mentioned that he's not. Carlos Alcaraz is not scared to make a play, right? That's something that he said in his interview when asked about, the underperformance of Alcaraz. And I like that, right? It's like, it's one of those quarterbacks who, he might have 30 touchdowns in a year, but might have 30 interceptions, right? So kind of like live by the sword, die by the sword. The issue is right now he's getting a lot of those interceptions if we're talking about NFL terms, but not a lot of touchdowns, quote unquote. Right. And it's a little bit of, frustrating sometimes. It's a lot of missed passes. You can tell by his body language. He's kind of anxious and
Frustrated.
knows, yes, frustrated, knows that he's underperforming, feels that way. And yeah, we have to hope that with time it continues to get better, right? You know, Wesley, right? Someone who keeps coming up in our episodes for good measure, right? He's been doing fantastic. He didn't start off great, right? So we're hoping Alcaraz maybe is on the same path, right? Um, and talking about Wesley, right? We had an offer basically almost signed, seal, delivered for 20 million euros for Atalanta, which kind of went away. And when I'm sure the Flamengo ownership and whatnot was upset about that, but then lo and behold, he's transformed to a new player, and now there's talks of him being sold for 35 million euros come the winter or next summertime. So do you see Alcaraz turning this around, and what's your take on Wednesday potential sale?
Right. So here's what we need to keep in mind when it comes to Alcaraz, right? And there is this tendency sometimes in soccer, and especially in Brazilian soccer, and perhaps especially in Flamengo soccer, that we focus too much in the short term and we miss the wide picture. You mentioned the price tag, which is something that people can easily refer to and like act outraged about the performance so far by Alcaraz. But let's keep two things in mind as well, everybody, and we can't forget that. Number one, he is 21 years old. Rafa, I think he's younger than you, right?
Yes, he is.
I think you're going to turn 22 before he does. All right.
Yes.
Number two, he signed a long-term contract with Flamengo. What does that mean? Is we are talking in the he hasn't even done 5% of the matches that he signed to do for Flamengo. So this is the really, really early beginning of his trajectory in the club. You don't play for a Premier League club like he did. You don't get a team to invest that much money on you without potential. So it's undisputed that he has tremendous potential. We got to give this guy an opportunity to settle, and let's wait for next year. I have a feeling that next year we're going to see a much improved version of him as he settles in, as he wears off the nerves, as he seep in the advice from Felipe Luis, and as he gets acclimated to Brazilian soccer and the new club. I'm not going to rush to conclusions, and I will certainly not going to
Write
devalue
him
our
off.
own assets, write him off. I won't. So, we'll see next year. Too early, too young for us to to be feeling one way or the other. There's a lot of water to go under that bridge still for Alcaraz. Now, as for Wesley, you know, this is the comeback kid of the year award. We know who's going to win that. That's Wesley, right? What an asset! What a turnaround! And exactly to the point. Also, a very young player that had a rough start, bumpy patch, bumpy road, and now he's going to probably find himself on a top tier European club.
That's amazing.
So
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. Really exciting to see our development of players, especially within the last couple of years, and more so even now, seeing these players coming up from the youth academy up into the main team. It's awesome to see. You don't see it everywhere. You don't see it this often as Flamengo is, which is really cool. And it's even better now because Felipe Luis had coached a lot of those youth teams, so he has an eye for that talent, and he's able to bring them up, and we can see that development now. Preview as we wrap it up here. Next game against Criciúma, the penultimate game of the season. People might write off this game. However, Criciúma is a very fierce team. They had a game against Corinthians this past weekend where they really should have won, right? Criciúma is battling to not get relegated. Criciúma was winning 2-0, and with less than 30 minutes left, they gave away 4 goals to Corinthians and lost. And don't think this will be a very easy light game whatsoever. And it'll be interesting to see how Flamengo goes to play this match against kind of an uncomfortable team to play against right now.
that's right. But before we do that, let's ask everybody to please like this video,
Yes.
subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends, and
Yes, sir.
so we can keep spreading Flamengo talk through to the world in English. helping everybody that wants to know a little more about Flamengo. It can follow the Portuguese channels to do that in English, and of course, helping our Brazilian friends to brush up on their English and participate. So yes, Flamengo and Criciúma again. Talk about the tale of two halves. The Criciúma Corinthians game was exactly that. Criciúma, came off strong, scored 2 goals. Went up 2-0 first half, and then allowed 4 on the second half. What happens is, the thing about that game, the Wednesday game, the Flamengo Criciúma upcoming game, would have had an even bigger dimension to it had Criciúma not lost to Corinthians. Yeah, because Fluminense was able to draw Atlético Paranaense away in a very tough match for them, and with Criciúma losing, that puts them in a very difficult spot to fight for survival. But it's still an important game for them. They do have to win. Let's keep in mind, Flamengo is missing Gerson and De La Cruz from midfield, both of them suspended after the third yellow. I don't think he will play Gabigol at all on this game because he has 2 yellows, and should he get a third yellow on the game against Criciúma, that would make him miss his farewell game against Vitória on the last game of the year. So he's probably out. So Flamengo should go into that game with a lot of new faces to play. It will be really tough for the reasons that you've specified. We shall keep an eye on it. But it will again be good to see the players that are given an opportunity if they are going to fight hard to earn the spot on the roster next year.
100%, 100%. Well, I'm excited to see how that turns out. I'm excited to see a result. I'm excited to see what ends up happening with Fluminense, or see if they end up getting relegated or not. Anyways, this has been a great start of the channel, and I think we're starting at the right time because it's also the start of something new, start of a legacy within Flamengo, and we're going to be able to cover it from top to bottom. Upcoming soon, Flamengo elections. Do you want to give a 30-second quick Spark Notes version of what it is, what it means, just so those who maybe don't know as much can know in a super quick resume?
Yeah, I'll try to do it under a minute just to set the background. So Flamengo, unlike a lot of teams that are outright owned by somebody or a corporation, is a club, and a club that has its members electing the president every 3 years. The current president is term limited, as he was reelected 3 years ago. So in a week's time, I think it's the 9th of December or the 8th of December, next week, Flamengo is going to hold their elections to be who's going to be club president. And club president is the ultimate power in the club to make decisions. So we have 3 candidates that are vying for the position. One is the vice president of the current administration. His name is Rodrigo Dunchi. The second one is Luis Eduardo Baptista, or BAP. He had been a part of the current administration and part of the group that transformed Flamengo into a financial and athletic powerhouse in Brazil. And the third one is Mauricio Gomes de Matos, or MGM, also had a role in current administration. So all of those guys can be traced to the group that transformed Flamengo. Election takes place next weekend. Only, believe it or not, around 6,000 people are expected to vote, which is crazy when you think that Flamengo has approximately 45 million fans. So a very small fraction of the Flamengo fans, those that are that hold titles for the club, get to vote, and we should see who is going to continue, who's going to if the current administration can make their successor, or if one of the 2 contenders will accede to the throne of Flamengo. Big important job. Flamengo is now a very large business entity, that has soccer as its primary target and focus, but with a lot riding on this election, a lot, especially related to the potential new stadium that is to be built, which we'll be covering soon. So big stakes. We've introduced the candidates. Next week, we're going to know who's going to win and take the club forward.
Love it, love it, love it. Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us in another episode of FLAmerica. We'll be sure to bring back the quick fire question segment that everybody really enjoyed in the next episode. For today, we had it's supposed to be a quick one, but we're extremely passionate, so we can talk about this for days and hours. But thanks for joining us today. Like, subscribe, share. We'll see you guys later in the week, and God bless everybody, and have a great rest of your day. Saudações rubro-negras. Let's go Flamengo, baby.